Alabama took out UTC yesterday. Auburn lost to New Mexico State. And everyone's saying, hey, watch out, Alabama. You got trouble because Auburn is going to be fired up. And Alabama, you're going to overlook Auburn down on the plains because that's what happened last time. As Lee Corso so famously has said many times, not so fast, my friends. We're going to talk about this Iron Bowl. Welcome to the original Bama Football Tailgate Show channel. This is actually the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel where we do the Tailgate Show and a bunch of other stuff. And we want to invite you to the best party on the quad, or this week would be down on the plains. Thanks for being here. Roll Tide. Let's talk some Alabama football. It is Iron Bowl week. He's Chad Anderson. I'm Mick Gillespie. We're talking Alabama and Auburn finally here. And Chad, there's just so much to dig into. I just saw something where Paul Feinbaum, of course, Mr. Just put the finger in the air and
go ahead
feel
and
the
say
wind
it.
blow. Feel the wind blow. It's like this time he's like, well, I'm not ready to tell you that Alabama's going to win this football game because Auburn lost. I want to talk about that because I think a lot what people have to overlook is that this isn't an Alabama team that's overlooking anybody right now. This is an Alabama team that's playing fundamentally good football. Forget about what Auburn did. Just for a second, let's talk about Alabama, another dominant performance.
Yeah, I think if you look at this is an Alabama team that's competing against itself. That's it. Alabama's not looking at the opponent. And the way I know that is because it wasn't just the fact that, you can easily get hyped up for Tennessee and for LSU and you can, get all jacked up and ready and rolling and whatever. But when it comes down to the games against like Kentucky or Chattanooga, those games, those aren't easy to get up for, Mick. I personally, you called it. I had a good little run there figuring out how the team was going to play. Kentucky worried me. It was just a trap game. It was coming after two big wins, emotional wins, and Alabama took care of business. Chattanooga, they didn't let the 11 a.m. kickoff, the senior day, the Iron Bowl, anything like keep them from being focused. Not that they were going to lose, but we've seen it in the past, Mick, where they get behind 3-0 in the second quarter against a team like this, or the Citadel they were either leading at halftime or tied, or maybe Bama was up 3 at halftime. It wasn't good. But this team, they're competing simply against a standard. And when Nick Saban gets a team to buy into that mentality, you better look out.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that's the way that Alabama's playing right now. 63-10 final. Didn't matter who was in the football game. I know Chattanooga isn't on Alabama's level, but they were 7-win team in FCS. I mean, did you watch any of the Florida State game against North Alabama? It was 13-0 North Alabama, and against eventually Florida State wore them out. Alabama wasn't playing that game, and UTC did a couple things. They scored some points. They were able to make plays, but Alabama overwhelmed them, just like they did to Kentucky, just like they did to LSU, just like they did the second half against Tennessee. Mm-hmm. They've been down and they've come from behind. The defense has gotten better. They make adjustments and they're getting healthy. And I think those things kind of all factor into this. And besides that, it's the Iron Bowl. Alabama's not overlooking them. This was the Alabama team that Paul Feinbaum was talking about that had to have 4 overtimes to beat Auburn was a team that was scared to play on the road. Like they were trending in that direction going into the football game. And that Auburn team was better than this Auburn team too, right? That Auburn team wouldn't have lost to New Mexico State, and they got blown out by New Mexico State yesterday. Now, do I think Auburn's going to be a lot better? Yeah, I do. But I don't think it's going to matter. They have an issue at quarterback. Doesn't matter who they put in there. They've had a controversy. We didn't even know who their quarterback was going to be. They're going back and forth. Then they finally found with Peyton Thorne a little bit of stability up until last night. The quarterbacks that give Alabama trouble, Chad, are the guys that can throw and run. I don't think that Thorne's going to be able to run enough to affect Alabama's defense.
Yeah, and also Alabama's secondary is elite. This is a secondary that puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback and is okay with putting their guys out there on the islands and one-on-one man coverage and so forth. And that was a lot of times a problem in the past as well, is that Alabama's had great safeties, great defensive backs, but this defense, they seem a little more tenacious. And now that Nick Saban has played against quarterbacks who can run and throw, you've seen that kind of evolve defensively over the years, and Alabama's done a better job of slowing that down. But you're right, these guys can't do both. They can only do one or the other, and passing ain't it for this crew. They really, really struggle in moving the football down the field. So I'm with you, though. I fully expect there's going to be some voodoo. There's going to be some black magic. There's going to be one or two things most likely that just kind of bounce or go their way. It just seems to always be the case. That's going to happen, and that's what you expect in this game. Rivalry games are so emotional. It's a big deal. But it's one of those things, though, that Alabama is far superior in the talent department at, I think, every position. I don't know of one that Auburn really does better than Alabama right now. If they do, it's more even.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at that, and Nick Saban's the superior coach, I know Hugh Freeze had a couple of years of success against Saban, but overall, Bama's the better team. They check all the boxes in this game. So it's really just keeping the momentum out of play and not letting Auburn linger or the fan base get into it. But this one has Alabama on paper, by plenty.
Earlier today, I did a preview show, and I want to correct something right now. But at the time, the spread was 10.5. They recalibrated the spread to 14.5. I still think the spread's too low. I think they've done it again. I don't think that Vegas has this Alabama team figured out yet. I think Alabama wins by 3 touchdowns. I think that Auburn is capable of playing with Alabama for 2.5 quarters. And then after that, they're not going to be able to run with the Crimson Tide. There's so many ways that Alabama can win this game. The problem that Auburn has is there's not many routes for them to win the football game. And not to say they couldn't, I just don't think they won't. And when I look back at Iron Bowl history, there's not a whole lot of big upsets in this game. There are upsets occasionally, but normally the teams are pretty evenly matched when you talk about who's home and who's on the road, right? I mean, you get that home field advantage, and Auburn's done such a nice job of turning theirs into a great home field advantage. I go all the way back to when the Iron Bowl used to be in Birmingham. You would go to Birmingham at the end of the season, the Legion Field, and watch it. And then Auburn ended that because they wanted to have that game on their home campus. And then Alabama was like, well, we're going to do that too. We'll get the money. But it's a shame, though. The real Iron Bowls in Birmingham were awesome. I mean, split right down the middle and amazing and electric. And I know it was hard to get into that stadium. It wasn't always.
Was it always 50-50? Was it like Texas OU? It was just 50-50?
Right down the middle. I mean, and it was crazy. I mean, there'd be an occasional Alabama fan on the other side.
Sure, yeah.
One team was, really bad, then the other team would get the tickets. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, and it was fun, and it was historic. So I miss those days. But with that said, it definitely helps your university to have this game on campus because you're going to make a ton of money. Saban in these Iron Bowls, Chad, he's won 7 of 10, and against Auburn, he's as Alabama's coach in Iron Bowls, 11-5. Do you remember that first year?
I was there.
But you remember he was like before the game, he's like, every game, we take every opponent seriously, and this is another game that's on the schedule. It's the next game on the schedule. And then that ass got beat, and they were talking all their shit. And then what happened afterwards? You've never heard him say that again because he knew at that point on that this isn't any other game. Coaching at LSU, you don't have a game like this. Coaching at Michigan State. Michigan State isn't like this.
No.
Maybe the only other game that I could say is like this is Michigan against Ohio State, right?
Right.
I mean, I'd say that's it, but they're not in the same state.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned Legion Field, just going back on that real quick. Auburn got it there in 89 down on the plains. And then Alabama had it at Legion Field every year that they were the home team up until 2000. And then that was the first time it was in Tuscaloosa. So the game hasn't even been in Legion Field since 1998. So 25-year anniversary since Bama and Auburn played in Birmingham. But yeah, that's one of those, like, I didn't really grow up with it on the tradition side where every year it was at Legion Field. I know Auburn fans would bitch and complain because they say Birmingham's an Alabama town, so more Alabama fans end up inside the stadium and so forth. I mean, I get all that. I do though. I'm more of a campus guy. I love the fact that it goes to the campus, and I look at Texas, Oklahoma as being that other opportunity or that other game that's always played, at a neutral site. Georgia, Florida as well. I kind of think of it like it may be cool and the venue and it's an NFL stadium or you got the state fair going on, you got all this stuff. But then I think like, man, imagine Georgia playing inside the swamp, or imagine Florida playing inside Sanford Stadium. I don't know. I get torn on that, but it is cool. I know it's old tradition. The Steel City, the Magic City, the Iron Bowl in Birmingham. That was special. What was it? What was that bar? The Tide Tiger?
Yeah, Tide and Tiger.
Tide Tiger. Yeah.
Small bar. I wondered what the hell they did there when there wasn't an Iron Bowl.
Yeah, right. Like, it was just the Tuesday night locals, man.
Yeah, right. Everybody's just kind of like, like I would love to go there. I don't bet you it's not even open anymore.
I bet there's no way. Somebody drop that in the comments for us. Is that even open still? Because I'd like to know. Mick, you mentioned Nick Saban and the Iron Bowl. I don't know this for a fact. Okay, this is something I heard on the street. His first year at Alabama was my senior year at Alabama. And I went down in 07, watched Alabama lose that game. It sucked. His first Iron Bowl, coming off the Louisiana Monroe loss, all those things, right? And I was told, because I knew a few people in the athletic department and like the managers on the football team and that kind of deal, I was told that Nick Saban in the speech afterwards basically said, for the seniors, I'm sorry. And by the way, you're done, because he didn't play most of those guys in the bowl game against Colorado. He played all the guys that were coming back. But he made a comment and said, one thing I'll just tell you is we are never losing to these mother effers again. And it's all rumor. There's no fact behind that. It's just more hearsay.
What you heard on the streets.
Yeah, but that's kind of an interesting comment, that maybe it took him one Iron Bowl to realize what it really was. Because you can't always, figure it out from afar.
No.
So one Iron Bowl, being in the middle of it and losing on the road, that'll get you going. But think of this. So Saban actually has done so well. I know Auburn has been one of the few schools that has been able to get him more so than others, but he's still 11-5 overall. He's 11-5 overall. He's 11 of his last 15 though, because he broke that streak with Tuberville in 08. Got Tubbs fired, sent him to the Senate. But I actually saw our buddy Ben George mention this the other day on Twitter. I retweeted it. It was such an interesting stat. Alabama on Saturday has a chance to beat Auburn for the fourth time in a row. It would be the first time that's happened since Bear Bryant.
Yeah. I saw that.
That is mind-blowing to me. Like, if you think about that, right? If you think about that, in the 90s, it was such an alternate back and forth every year. 2000s was more Auburn until Saban showed up at the very end of the decade. But go back to the 80s and then before with Bear Bryant. That's the last time Alabama won 4 in a row. And just with all the success Alabama's had, that's just mind-blowing to me. But it is true. It's just one of those stats that caught me off guard.
Yeah. I mean, look at this. I'm scrolling back to it. There it is on Winsipedia. 81.
So was that 9 years
and,
in a row, 73
and
to 81?
yeah, it started in 73. So
Yeah,
73, 4,
9 in a row.
5, 6, 7. Yeah. I mean, and then it took them what? Bo Jackson was there, right? 82, 83.
Yeah, Bo over
I
the top,
think.
right?
Yeah, Bo over the
And
top.
72 right there, the one that sticks out, otherwise it would have been 11 in a row. 72 was punt, Bama, punt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so take that one out, that would have been 11 in a row. Bama what Auburn blocked, I think, 2 punts in that game?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I know. We were in school for that run right there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Mine was '03 to '07. I got every bit of it was awful, man.
Look at that.
Um, the 2001 game right there where Bama became bowl eligible. Well,
Yeah.
technically no, because they had to go beat Southern Miss in the 9/11 makeup game, but that win basically got Bama bowl eligible. That game, when I went, that was nuts because that was one of those that you kind of just hoped you would be in the game, and
Yeah.
Bama just whipped their ass. I
Yeah,
mean,
that was
whole
one of
day.
the few times where there was a true upset
Yeah.
because that Alabama team wasn't that good. And they just went into that game and it just all came together. I want to say, wasn't it Cadillac that got hurt at the beginning of the game and Auburn really never recovered?
Was that
That-
'01? Did he? Maybe he did.
There was an injury in that game that kind of jump started things.
That would make sense because Cadillac was a senior in '04, so that would have been his freshman year.
Yeah, but he was really good then.
Yeah, he was good, period. Yeah, he was good,
Yeah.
period. But yeah, that was Franchione's first year,
Yeah,
'01.
Franchione, terrible. Shula, the worst fourth quarter coach ever. And look where we are now. And
Scroll up just a little, Mick. This is what's so crazy about this rivalry, too. If you scroll up just a hair. Right there. That's good. So look at 2008, right? That's when Bama and Saban beat Auburn, snapped the streak of 6 in
oh
a
yeah,
row, right?
36. Yeah,
Look at those 2 wins in 2010 and 2013. Eh, they won, no question about it, but it literally took Cam Newton coming back 24 nothing and a kick 6 with when Bama had the ball in the fourth quarter inside the 25-yard line twice, up 7 in 13 for Bama to not reel off, what would that have been? 9 in a row.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, pretty crazy when you look at that too.
And the last time they lost was with Bo Nix, remember? And that was the game
That was without Tua.
that was without Tua, and they did that weird play at the end of the game.
It was genius. I know people hate on Gus, but it was genius because it was 4th and 1 or 2, and Auburn had to punt. And so what they did is they ran the punter on the field as if they were going to punt. But then they left Bo Nix on the field and split him out wide. And it confused Bama's substitutions. And so Bama tried to substitute because they got tricked trying to get the right personnel out there. And when they did, they had 12 in defense. And that created the 5-yard penalty and a first down. So, yeah, Gus ran the punter out there as if they were going to punt, but then they ran Bo Nix out wide, and everybody got confused.
Did they have timeouts left? Were they going to call timeout?
No,
I can't remember.
Alabama didn't because they had burned them to stop.
No, I don't mean Alabama. I mean Auburn.
Maybe. I can't remember.
So weird.
I'm sure they did.
The last game down there, that Bama had the comeback with Bryce Young. I just felt like that team, they were starting to have those road struggles. I feel like this team is the team that has figured out the road thing, and now all of a sudden they're going to be affected some by the crowd. I mean, you could not be, but I'm just confident that they're going to be able to do the things they need to do in this football game.
Yeah. It's just this place is so weird,
Yeah.
but I'm with you. You just don't need crazy things to happen. Remember, 2 years ago, Alabama, it was really frustrating because they were actually moving the ball with no problem. Like Bryce Young and Alabama in that first half, they moved the ball on a couple of drives. They just weren't getting any points. And it was, I don't remember the exact sequence, but I just remember they did move the ball a little bit and then things happened. They didn't get on the board because they didn't score until I think it was the fourth quarter was their first points with a field goal. But remember in that first half, even when they were moving the ball, Jamison Williams was ejected for targeting on special
Yeah.
teams.
Yeah.
On special teams, Jamison Williams gets target, and it's that kind of stupid stuff, you
Right.
know. I actually joked. Speaking of targeting, I joked with a friend of mine. I texted him the other day in the first quarter, and I said, "I'm glad the Chattanooga quarterback's okay. I'm also not upset that Braswell's being ejected for targeting in the first quarter
Right. Because he
because
can't get hurt.
he can't get hurt.
Yeah.
And he can't target in the second half. So he
Yeah.
can't miss the first half of the Iron Bowl. It's like, silver lining on that one.
Yeah. Who would have thought that one of the problems you'd have playing a game like that is that the other team's so slow that your guys, basically are getting in trouble for hitting. And it's like, man, they're just Alabama's just used to playing teams that are on a different speed. But let's talk about the game on Saturday a little bit. I mean, it really wasn't much of a game. But the big question is kicks. I think that we've all been frustrated with Koolaid McKinstry. Saban got to the point where he pulled him out of the game. He talked about it afterwards. You guys saw it on the post-game show. He said, one punt he was supposed to catch and return it, and he fair caught it, right? And then the other one, he should have probably let go, and he caught it and tried to return it. And then he was just like, look, I'm going to let Downs get in there. And he said that it was confidence, that he felt like Koolaid didn't have the confidence in that spot anymore. What do you think's going to happen? I mean, could Caleb Downs return punts in this Auburn game, or do you think you go back to Koolaid? I mean, what do you think's going to happen?
I'm fine with honestly just going with Downs from the beginning and sticking with it. I don't mean anything on Koolaid. He's fantastic when it comes to being in the secondary, but it's almost like getting the yips with your putter. It's having the the yips playing second base. You just can't throw the ball to first for whatever reason. It's like it just becomes a mental thing. And Caleb Downs is one of those guys. I didn't know that he was an option, to be honest, because in my mind, I thought Isaiah Bond or Kendrick Law would go back there for punt returns. We've seen Law do it a couple of times. I think we've seen Bond do it once or twice as well. We've definitely seen both of those guys on kick returns for kickoffs. And on the punts, I just never – I thought if it was going to be Caleb Downs, like, okay, he's like the third, fourth, fifth option. And that guy's got swag, man. Like, he's just got that attitude, got that swag. And he plays with that on the field in defense and the safety spot. He's always making plays. He's aggressive. He attacks. He charges the ball. He makes plays. So I say I don't care that he's a freshman. If he's got that kind of just confidence and just the way he carries himself on the field, man, make him the guy and go with him, because it's obvious that there needs to be somewhat of a change. And so I'm all for it, man. Koolaid can keep practicing and be the backup for that. And, your NFL draft stock doesn't go down because you can't return punts. If you're an elite defensive back, be an elite defensive back. It's no big deal.
Right.
Just like Caleb Downs' return.
All right, Chad, here we go. This week's top 25, and Alabama's still at number 8. They didn't move at all. Georgia's number 1. They've been number 1 all year. Ohio State, though, up to number 2. Michigan down after struggling with Maryland to number 3. What's it really matter? They play each other this week. Washington, tough game against Oregon State. They won by 2. They were an underdog in that game, but Oregon just made too many mistakes to win. Florida State slides down, so Washington passes them. Jordan Travis, though, their quarterback, with one of those really bad injuries, and you wonder what that's going to look like moving forward. Oregon at 6. Texas, not a dominant win, but they got the job done against Iowa State. And there's Alabama, but not passing anyone yet. It's like they're getting closer. I mean, look at the numbers. They're getting closer because I think people are seeing that those style points matter. Alabama's dominating their competition, and Texas and Oregon are, Oregon's actually been doing the same thing, but Texas just kind of getting by, but still not caught up yet.
There's just nowhere to go. The Oregon one still bothers me. That one baffles me. I've said it for 2-3 weeks. I'll keep saying it. That one makes no sense. Look at Oregon's resume. They've beaten Utah. Now they're going to get a chance to beat Oregon State. I think it's Friday night, not Saturday. I think they play on Friday. They're going to get a chance to beat the Beavers. But I mean, other than Utah, what have they done other than play Washington close? So Oregon's the one that bothers me. There's not a single metric that Oregon is better than Texas and Alabama. So I think that this poll is correct. It's accurate. Georgia's number 1. Ohio State has better wins than Michigan. Michigan really, honestly, should be below Washington. Washington has a better overall resume, in my opinion. Michigan, a better eye test, but Michigan doesn't play anybody. So wouldn't your eye test be good if you're not playing anybody? Florida State, this is the one that's going to get weird. So unfortunately, and you hate to see things happen this way, but Jordan Travis being out, that's actually going to open the door for Florida to potentially pull the upset. They get to host the Noles in the Swamp on Saturday night. That's a potential upset. If not there, Louisville has a really good defense and is going to cause a lot of problems for Florida State. I forgot the backup's name. It's like Rodebacher or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be a problem. So, the committee also, I know we're talking about AP here, but the committee, which of course selects the top 4, they have a right to move a team down based on a significant injury. Doesn't get more significant than Florida State losing their quarterback. And the way somebody posed it earlier today on Twitter was looking at it and going, okay, if Georgia beat Alabama for their sake of arguing, Ohio State loses to Michigan, you got Georgia 1, Michigan 2, say Washington beat Oregon in the Pac-12, Washington's 3, and then you got Florida State undefeated at 13-0, and Texas, a Big 12 champ, at 12-1, but Florida State has a backup quarterback. Basically, the committee can look at it and go, which team is better? Which team would play Georgia tighter, Texas or Florida State? And with the backup quarterback, you'd have to say Texas would play them a better game as a more deserving team. So that's really interesting. I think Florida State, it would just be hard. It would be really hard to win those last 2 with a backup like that. I don't know anything about Rodebacher, so maybe he's Tua who backed up Jalen,
Mm-hmm.
I doubt it, but you never know. But there's just nowhere for Bama to go. But people have to remember, look, I know Bama sits at 8 right this minute. Bama is really 5. And what I mean by that is Ohio State, Michigan play. One of them loses. Oregon, Washington are going to play. One of them is going to lose. Bama's got to beat Georgia anyway. So that's 3 teams that are going to knock themselves out or Bama's going to knock out. So Bama's really 5 right this minute. They're 5. So it comes down to you need an upset. And the upset is either Texas loses somewhere in the Big 12 championship, maybe to Texas Tech. I doubt it. Oregon loses to Oregon State, but then beats Washington. Florida State loses to Louisville or Florida. Washington loses to Oregon. And then the committee likes Alabama's victories more than Oregon's victories. And so you leapfrog Oregon because you beat Georgia. But really, Bama's 5 right now. You need one thing to happen. And it's still 2 weeks of football, but Bama does need one thing to happen.
We've never seen anything like this because it's never happened before. It's never come down to the last week of the regular season.
Right.
And you've got 5 11-0 teams. and 4 10-1 teams, right? I mean, look at your Louisville. You're like, hey, what if we beat Florida State?
Sorry.
And you get some help. I mean, maybe some upsets happen. And the sad part for Louisville is they had that one look pass loss after they crushed Notre Dame, and they did the Auburn where they weren't paying attention to who they had and looking ahead, and they lost. They've only lost one game. This is really interesting. I'm still not comfortable saying that Alabama's going to get in, but I feel like if they keep on doing what they're doing, they go in and they crush Auburn in the Iron Bowl and beat Georgia. I think by the skin of their teeth, even if all these teams win, and like you said, you're right. We're like fifth right now. I think we'll leapfrog Texas, even though they beat us. I think that or Oregon. See, I've said it like this before. If Washington beats Oregon, it makes it a lot tougher for Alabama to get in. If Oregon wins, and that's their loss against Washington, and then it's a 3-way one-loss team tie, I think Alabama will be one of the 2 teams that's picked. I think it's easier to put Alabama and say, hey, look, you know what? They're number 3. They're the first of the one-loss teams after they beat Georgia, and then you're not even deciding over Texas and Alabama. You're deciding between Texas and Oregon. You see what I'm saying by that?
Yeah, no, they're last week on College Game Day, or yesterday on College Game Day, they talked about that. They said, hey, we're not putting out or completely discarding the fact that Alabama could jump Texas. I think that's crazy. To me, why play the game then? Like, I get it. It was week 2. Maybe Bama wins it if they played today. But personally, if I'm voting, I mean, I'm wearing the shirt, guys. I mean, I got it right here, but I can't in good faith put Texas behind Alabama in that scenario just because they'd win today. That's why you play the game. Now, the Oregon one is the problem for me. That one I'll die on the hill for because their resume is not as good. They don't have as many good wins. They won't have as many good wins if Alabama does beat Georgia.
Right.
And then the other thing with Oregon, and this is my biggest one, Alabama lost a game they didn't have to play.
Right.
And they lost it to a top 10 team, the Big 12 champion potentially. Yep. They lost a game they didn't have to play while Oregon's over here screwing around with Portland State and Hawaii. Alabama didn't do that. And so that's the one that really bugs me is Oregon. I think they'll just lose anyway. But it'll be a really interesting conversation if Bama beats Georgia and Florida State's undefeated and Oregon's a one-loss team and Texas. Think about that, Mick. You got Ohio State, Michigan winner. They're going to play Iowa. They'll smoke Iowa. That team's in. And then really after that, right? After that game, you're going to sit here with the Washington-Oregon winner. And if Washington's undefeated, they're in. But let's say Oregon wins, right? I think Oregon's better than Washington, personally. So if you had Ohio State, Michigan winner is one team in, and then you got 3 spots left, who do you go between Pac-12 champ Oregon with 1 loss, Big 12 champ Texas with 1 loss, SEC champ Bama with 1 loss, ACC or say undefeated ACC champion without their quarterback Florida State, Georgia, whose only loss would be to Bama.
Yeah, but they're not getting it. You got to be a conference champ to get in this year.
I agree. I agree with that.
There's going to be none of that unless you have a lot of chaos in the next 2 weeks, which we haven't gotten yet. But don't forget this, and I agree with you saying all these things. How about Oregon that isn't part of that conference anymore? Shouldn't matter, but it does, right? Or Texas, who's hauling ass on their conference, right? So the people that you got that are supposed to be in there backing you, are they really backing you? Like, do you think those same people that told Oklahoma they're not in, like, basically they changed the rules to keep them out?
It's a good point. I don't know the exact revenue implications, but I would think if you're the Big 12, you're still backing Texas so that you can get the money. Like you want to be the one.
How hard though?
Yeah, I
What
get
about
it.
the Pac-12? I
I
mean,
get it
it's
because
just crazy.
look,
It's like
your pride
what's
after a while can be like this, you know, like you can after a while, like especially guys with that much money and conferences with that much money. I get it. That's a great point. You
yeah.
know, that
And
is.
and this is honestly with the NIL and the transfer portal, you're seeing the beginning of super teams. And
Oh
so
yeah,
having a conference like a 12-team playoff this year would have made sense. And it's probably going to be like that, I guess, every year because they're going to, who's going to pay for what. But the top 12 wouldn't have been the 12 teams that got in. They're going to throw in some of these other teams, could possibly Liberty be in. They're undefeated. Let me roll that up for you as well. Jamie Chatwell just continues to roll at Liberty, 11-0.
So, did you see? Speaking of him, did you see what he did on Twitter where he tweeted, but
From
his
Mississippi
location was
State.
his
Yeah.
location was Starkville. It's so great,
Yeah.
so great.
Which he's a huge Tennessee fan, and they didn't want to
Yeah,
even talk to him, and all he's ever done was win. I mean, he won at
everywhere.
Coastal, and now he wins there. But he doesn't throw the ball; he runs the ball, kind of like a modern day spread run attack, kind of. And
He's Lane Kiffin.
yeah, and
Kiffin
if I
runs it.
was State, I'd hire him. If somebody else doesn't jump in first. But look at that team, 11-0, and moving up. So who? Your Cinderella story, James Madison, they lost in overtime. They weren't going to be allowed to play anyway, which is just another example of what a shit organization the NCAA is, where they just make up dumb rules for stupid reasons. And then you wonder why no one's got your back when the whole NIL thing comes up, because you guys were so bad with dumb rules. You remember, hey, look, I want to buy this guy a biscuit for breakfast, and it's like, well, that's a violation. I'm going to kick this guy out because somebody gave his parents money so they could come watch their son play college football. When you guys are doing nothing but profiting off of this kid, you're selling his jersey in the damn team store, right? And his family can't even get $300 to fly in and see him above board, right? And so it just typical. And I'm so glad that the one guy on game day that I actually like a lot, by the name of and also Saban seems to like the guy a lot too. Mr. McAfee was basically like saying the same thing, and I was like, "Amen." Amen. Because those other guys weren't going to call the NCAA out like that.
No,
Just be like, that's what's wrong with the show, and he's what's right with the show. And you watch, he probably won't even be on there next year.
well, his contract is up. Do you know that?
Yeah, I know. And he said
his
he might not sign, and it's not because they haven't offered him an extension. It's because
there's some people don't like him.
I know. I was at a football party yesterday, and I was talking to some old schoolers, and they were like, they didn't like him. And I thought, man, I don't know. You guys tell us, man. Get in the comment section and bust it out. I'm all in on Pat McAfee.
I love him.
I love the energy. I love the personality, the charisma, the sense of humor. I love the fact that I don't really feel like he's pulling for one team over the other. I think he just loves football. And honestly, you know who he reminds me of personality-wise? He reminds me of my friend Jake. You remember my friend Jake from college? He was like the biggest football fan. And it didn't matter. Like, he was an Eagles fan, but he loved every team. Like, he was just in love with the sport itself. And it was infectious. Like just certain players on teams. It could be like a guy on the Giants, their biggest rival, or Dallas or whatever. But if that guy was good and he liked the way he played, the guy would get behind him. Not saying that he ever did that for Auburn, but you know what I mean. McAfee kind of reminds me of that same, like, little bit of a meathead in there, but I like it.
Yeah, he just enjoys the hell out of it. He genuinely loves what he does. And that's what's so fun about it. If you go back and look real quick, I did this on Tuesday night. This is kind of fun. This is something we did while you were chasing bears last week. While you were playing kickball.
Did you miss me? I'm still sore from kickball and flag football, by the way.
I told him you were on the mend.
So still on the mend. I've got bruises under my toenails.
Let's pull the top 25 back up one more
All right.
time real quick.
All right.
This is what it would look like next year. Okay. This is what's fun. And it does suck. Well, yeah, I want to ask you this here in a second, Mick. Remind me to ask you one question in a minute. So scroll up. So here's what it would look like at the moment. Okay. Number 5, the 5 seed, that is, would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Oregon. Oregon would play Tulane in Eugene. Okay. 5-12.
Right.
Texas would be 6. They would play, it looks like Penn State in this one in Austin. All right. Alabama would be probably, say Alabama loses to Georgia, just to keep it simple. All right. Then Bama would probably be 7, or just say, leave it right here the way it is. Bama would be 7, would play Missouri, and then Louisville would end up playing somebody who would lose up there at the top. So actually, I got that wrong, but you kind of see the point. Like
Yeah, right.
We get,
You know what? You just reminded me of something too. Not just hold your thought. If Alabama loses, say they lose, they're gonna be like in the same spot they are when they win every week. Isn't that weird too? Like they're at the bottom of where they could possibly be for winning every week. Like at 8, they should be higher to me, but they're not. I think they're one of the 2 best teams in the country, and I think it's going to play out in the playoff. Maybe not maybe the best, but right now they're at 8. But if they lost, they could fall to 9. You know, they wouldn't fall further than 9. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, no, it is. I'm gonna fix this real quick because I'm now curious. It would actually be Michigan would play Tulane. That would be your first round game. Michigan would be the 5. I skipped too far.
I don't even know how they even do all this. Like the
Well,
major
because,
conference winners get in, and then what?
It's the highest ranked 4 conference champions. So I'm
Okay.
saying just the way the poll sits right now, Georgia, Ohio State, Washington, and Florida State are your highest ranked conference champions if it ended today. So Michigan is your 5. They'd be the first at large. Tulane's a conference champion. So they would be in at 12. Then Oregon would be 6, and they would play number 11, Penn State. That would make the 7 spot go to Texas, and they would host Missouri. And then Bama would be the 8, and they would host Louisville as the 9. And so the winner of Bama Louisville would play Georgia. The winner of Texas Missouri would play Ohio State. The winner of Oregon State Penn State, or Oregon and Penn State, would play Washington. The winner of Michigan and Tulane would play Florida State. It's just so balanced this year that it would be a perfect year for the inaugural 12 team.
Right. And next year it'll be a bunch of crap teams, and it won't even be close to this, right? Or will it be?
You do have the log jam this year. You said it. You got 9 teams with 1 loss or less. But here's what I wanted to ask you a minute ago. All right.
Okay.
Getting to this. If that was the case, really Bama would be playing Auburn to get into the playoff. Because if Bama beat Auburn, went 11-1, went to the SEC championship, and lost to Georgia, the 11-2 SEC runner-up Alabama, who beat Ole Miss, even though they wouldn't make it, but who had good wins. Like, my point is, Bama wouldn't fall out of the top 12 to go.
Right. Yeah. So there would be like a play-in game.
But it waters down Georgia. So my point is, do
you don't even play it?
Do you hate that? Like, does that ruin an SEC championship for you? Because Bama beats Auburn, they're in. Like, they're not going to get knocked out because they lost to Georgia.
I think, and this is something I've thought about in the past, I think that these conference championship games need to go.
Really?
They're meaningless. Yeah, I mean, because all you're going to do is knock your own teams out, right? The conferences, everyone's got this. They've all got their hat out trying to, make more money, and that's what this is all about. The TV networks, because no one likes anything that ESPN says or does besides watching live sporting events. They're even making it to where they're not getting that right anymore, which is a shame. The funny thing to me is like how they find all these commentators that sound exactly the same. It's just pretty funny. And how about the guys doing the game for Bama on the Plus channel on Saturday? Anyway, let me get back to what you were asking me, okay? And that was like preschool, my first college football broadcast, right? Whose dad was the one that, that was like, hey, it's time for Sonny to get in there. This is all a money grab, man. This is all about money. This is all about how the TVs and the colleges, the conferences can make more money. And so we're going to make this big college football playoff. They didn't, the bowls got the money before, but they're not getting it now. They're going to eliminate all these bowls, which we loved. They're going to be gone. That guys don't even want to play in those games anymore. Well, they don't even want to play in them anymore. Like these superstar college guys don't appreciate going and playing in the Gator Bowl or the Mobile Bowl or the Music City Bowl. I mean, which for us was good times going to these things. So now you got this playoff thing, and the SEC thinks, oh yeah, well, we'll still have like our conference championship game. I think that you start opting out of that. I think if you're in the playoff, say you're Georgia next year, why even play that damn game? Opt out. Hey, I'll see you guys in round number 2 of the college football playoff. We're not playing this. I mean, what's the meaning of it? Well, I mean, I know it still does mean something to win the conference championship, but if the goal is to win the national championship and the conference championship is just an extra game to get guys hurt so that you're not prepared and you're not ready, why even play it? So I hope that they dissolve those.
Well, the only advantage right now with them, other than of course winning your conference, and there is some prestige that goes with that, but the other is you want to get the bye. You want to get that first round bye and be one of the 4 teams that has to play one less game in order to win the national championship. So that is part of it. But do conferences, do TV rights holders start offering big money bonuses? Like, do players start getting money if you win? Do universities directly start getting money if they win? Like, there is a point where you start to ask yourself, because what if you're the 1 seed like Georgia all year long, and then the conference championship bumps you out of the top 4, and now you've injured Brock Bowers gets injured playing so now you're out of the top 4, and you lost your star tight end playing in a game that didn't matter because you were going to the playoffs anyway.
Right. No, I'm with you. What if they turn in though? But they could turn into, it's like, hey, Georgia's going to they're in, and then Bama and Missouri are going to play, so that winner gets in, But then is that fair? Like, I don't even know, man. Like, I look at these, and I'm like, that's the next chip to fall to me.
It is.
And I hope it does, just because the conferences are so damn greedy. I would just love to see them kind of, for having pushed this, which I'm not. I like the 4-team. I liked the 2-team. And I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm probably like the playoff format. And I got to say, like, this is my worry, okay? I'm gonna give you both sides of this, okay? The college football regular season is a playoff. And it's a playoff for just the thing that you just said. Like next year, it's a playoff for Alabama to beat Auburn to get in. And if they lose, then they're not in, right? It's a playoff because when LSU lost that second game, right, they're out, right? And if Alabama loses to Auburn on Saturday, they're out, right? Like, the regular season is just a big deal. And every time you add to this, so then next year, Michigan and Ohio State will both get in, right? So now that game isn't as meaningful. It doesn't have the impact that it has. And then as you like build this thing out where the coaches are going to want to keep on adding teams because it saves them. And now that the players are getting paid, this used to be a 10-game schedule, then a 12-game schedule. Now you're going to get it up to maybe 16 games, depending on where you're at. That's NFL, man. That's like NFL season. So I don't want to see the regular season lose the impact. And it is. I don't know what the extent's going to be. But then on the other side of things, I think about Mike Leach, and he's right. He's like, okay, football, right? NFL, you play to get into the tournament at the end of the year. And the tournament is, it concludes with the Super Bowl. Well, he's damn right. And they've been doing that for a long time, right? High school. They think about Alabama high school football, like you play the regular season, although it's not as many games. I mean, it's 10, but you get into the playoff, and then you have a big playoff, and then you have a champion. So I get it. I mean, I know that tournaments are a part of sports, but the thing that I hate is the system before the regular season was a playoff, and now that's going to be gone. So the regular season which was different than any other sport I can ever remember, where the regular season, I mean, you lose game 2 to Texas and you lost a playoff game. And now you're behind the 8 ball because you lost game 2. And I know that sucks because Alabama would kick the shit out of Texas now. I guarantee it. But they lost, right? And next year that won't matter. So I don't know how that's going to impact college football, but the regular season to me is what made college football so good. And then you mentioned the bowls too, kind of just going down the same line. Like now, eventually, unless they work the bowls in with this playoff, they're going to be gone too.
I think the bowls will stick around because I think you're still going to have some schools that look at it and enjoy a certain matchup, or the Arkansas States, the James Madisons, Alabama. Remember, I mean, during Shula, we were freaking jacked just to go to the Music City Bowl, even with Spencer Pennington. Like it's kind of, it'll mean something to some people and some teams every now and then. But you're also going to have those bowls and fan bases and teams that had a down year because they wanted to go play for the Natty or play in the playoff, and they missed it by a game or 2 games or whatever the case may be. And when that happened, now they don't really care about going to the Outback Bowl or the Capital One Bowl or the Liberty Bowl or whatever you want to call it, or whatever you got. So I get all that. It's just going to mean different things for different people. But I've always hated that we treat college football differently and that we look at the regular season as the playoff. Philip Fulmer used to say that too. It always drove me crazy because it's like, why is it that every other sport, it's okay to lose in the regular season, but in college football, you can't? And there's just so many injuries and so many different circumstances and things. I mean, think about elements and weather, and what if, especially in the SEC, you're constantly playing against what has been over the last 20 years, the best conference in college football. And so you basically get penalized because you're in the best conference. So you can't lose more than one, while the Pac-12 can screw around and play nobody. I mean, also look at who Michigan's played all year. They got to win one game. They got to beat Ohio State. That's it.
They're gonna I think they're going down on Saturday.
I can't figure that game out, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we'll see.
I can't.
We don't have to worry about it anymore. The regular season's they've poured water in there to dilute it. And,
they have. They have.
I mean, but as much as you hate that intensity, man, like being at the game of the century. Remember that? And Alabama lost, and then like everything had to fall into place to get that rematch. And that's the intensity of those regular season games. Like there's nothing like it, and there won't be, when everyone's making the playoffs. And they'll eventually this tournament will end up being 12 isn't enough,
I do think I do think they'll stop at 12 for quite a while. I could maybe see 16 down the road, but that being completely it. Because let's be honest, I forgot who was 12 and who was, I think Ole Miss was 12th. I forgot who was 13th in the poll, but maybe it was Oklahoma. But if you go back and look, like Ole Miss isn't going to win the national championship.
No,
Penn
no.
State's not going to win the like we're arguing over who's 12 and 13 versus over who's 4 and 5. And to me, that's a big difference. Like 5 could win the national championship. 13 probably is not going to. Alabama can win the national championship with no problem this year. So it would be a shame if they got left out because they legitimately are a national title contender.
Well, they got to stay focused. We're going to cover this Iron Bowl. I'm excited about it. I think that this is a great challenge for this football team this year. I can't believe that Auburn. This is what I think. Just kind of getting towards the end of the show. I just think that Auburn spent all of their time game planning for Alabama.
I'm worried about that.
I mean, I'm sure they did, but it doesn't matter. Like you got to have the players to execute anyway. And it's hard to just turn it on and turn it off. Hey, you're going to be really focused this week because you're playing Alabama and not New Mexico State. What are you going to do when you're down 14? Those are habits that Hugh Freeze is really going to have to figure out there. And then some of his comments haven't helped out a lot either. I mean, he's thrown these guys under the bus. And to beat Alabama, and you can do it, you got to play a hell of a football game. Texas played a hell of a game to beat Alabama. And that was not even a good Alabama team at that point, right? They couldn't get the calls in on defense. They looked like they were confused on plays, and they got beat up because of it. There was no chance that the offense could put a drive together. They hit deep balls, and that's it. All of those things are different now. These guys can put drives together. The defense knows where the plays are coming in. They're not perfect. They're going to give up points and yards, but everybody does in college football. But they'll also turn you over, and make you make mistakes, and they'll hit you as well. They've gotten better on that all year long. I just can't imagine a scenario where a team that decided that they weren't going to show up to play New Mexico State is all of a sudden going to be world beaters on Saturday for 4 quarters. I just don't think they have it in them.
You also got to look at just who has simply come into the program the last couple of years. Nick Saban continues to recruit and dominate. He's always in the top 3. Auburn didn't do well under Brian Harsin. And so they've been living off of some really bad talent, just simply because of what they've gone through in the last few years. I mean, buying out Gus, bringing in Harsin, that didn't work. It was a terrible fit. Players didn't come in, or they bolted, or they left, or they went to the portal. They did a Bo Nix. And so Freeze, and I think Freeze is a good coach, and he's going to have some success there. But yeah, I mean, you're asking him to put a miracle together with just a bad set of guys from a talent perspective when you compare them to what Alabama has.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we'll be back. We're going to talk about this team. Tomorrow we'll do the press conference at noon, and then we'll commentate for you before and after. It's going to be a fun week. The college football playoff show, which is so anticlimactic, but we'll get an idea. Who knows? Maybe some things are going to change this week. Will Alabama move up? That they could move Alabama ahead of Texas. Wouldn't that be something? And I don't think that it's impossible, because even though Alabama lost to those guys, when they're watching the quality of football that Alabama's playing and Texas, you feel like they're kind of squeaking by each week. Eventually, something could happen there. We'll find out. Maybe nothing happens, but we'll do that on Tuesday night. Then Wednesday after practice, we'll hear from Nick Saban. Obviously, Thursday's Thanksgiving, but I think I'm going to do a show on Thanksgiving. I'm not going anywhere this year for once.
Count me in.
You in? Well, let's do a show on. Let's eat turkey and talk football then.
Let's do it. Let's gnaw on some legs and have some pecan
let's
pie.
Do it, man.
Man, let's do it. I'm
Friday, Baron Huber is telling me that he's going to be at the Floor Bama for the show.
Oh,
So you get to,
have you worn the floor of Bama? Does the floor of Bama know?
do they know? Said the whole Huber clan's coming. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see if we can get him on the show that he started. You know, the godfather of the show. See if he'll show up and do it. So a lot of stuff going on here this week. And then Saturday after the game, we'll be here as well. Where are you watching the Iron Bowl from home? I know you're not going after that incident on Wire Road that happened to Ben.
I used to go. I haven't been there since 2011. I don't really care to go back. So
okay,
I'll be upstairs. Hopefully, Mick, I'll be upstairs on the post-game show in the middle of the fourth quarter because it's a 30-point ass whipping.
I would love it. If we beat their ass, we'll treat them just like UTC. We'll start the show during the end of the game when they're running the clock out, just out of disrespect. No, I'm just kidding. Look, I want to get there. I want them to win the football game by 1 point or more and play solid football. If Auburn decides to show up and play a good game and it's a good football game, hey, that's not going to hurt Alabama either. But Auburn's going to have to rise to Alabama's standard. That's the promise I'm making. I don't think Alabama's going to drop their standard because they haven't done that, and I just don't see it happening. So, all right, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Be part of our channel here. Give us a Roll Tide, and the way you do that is by giving us a thumbs up. We're really proud of you and what you guys have done to make this channel a growing hit. And we want you to share, tell your friends about it. If they're Alabama fans, tell them about the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Roll Tide, and we will talk to you tomorrow.